$70 million raised, 20 million users, backed by SoftBank's Vision Fund, valued as a unicorn, and 95% of it was fake. This is the story of IRL, an app that promised to save us from social media and instead became one of the most brazen user count frauds in startup history. Let's rewind. In 2018, a founder named Abraham Shafi launched an app called IRL, short for In Real Life. The pitch was almost poetic. Instagram and Facebook were accused of making us lonely, addicted, glued to our phones instead of our friends. IRL flipped the script. It wasn't for scrolling, it was for planning, a place to organize real hangouts, real events, real human contact. In a post-pandemic world starved for connection, that story landed perfectly. Investors couldn't get enough of it. SoftBank's Vision Fund, the same fund behind WeWork, behind Uber, led a massive funding round. When it closed, IRL had raised roughly $170 million. Reports valued the company north of $1 billion. A unicorn built on the promise of bringing people back together. Remember the environment this happened in. Interest rates near zero. Venture capital chasing the next social app before someone else got there first. In that climate, a founder with a great story and a hockey stick growth chart didn't get questioned. He got funded, fast, and at a premium before due diligence could catch up to the pitch. And the growth numbers backed it up. Shafi claimed the app had attracted millions of users, eventually more than 20 million, almost entirely, he said, through organic viral growth. No expensive ad campaigns, no paid tricks, just a product so good that people couldn't stop inviting their friends. That single claim, organic virality, was the engine of the entire valuation. It's what made IRL look less like just another app and more like the next generation of social media. There was just one problem. According to the SEC, it wasn't true. Behind the scenes, prosecutors allege IRL was spending millions of dollars paying users to download the app, offering incentives, running ad campaigns specifically designed to inflate the numbers. And instead of disclosing that spending, the SEC alleges Shafi routed the payments through third parties, burying the real marketing costs so investors would keep believing the growth was organic. Think about how deliberate that is. It's not an accounting mistake. It's not a metric that got fuzzy over time. According to the complaint, real advertising dollars were funneled through outside parties specifically so that the trail wouldn't lead back to a paid growth campaign. Every dollar spent buying a user was a dollar working against the story investors had been sold. At the same time, Shafi is accused of using company credit cards to fund a very different kind of growth, his own lifestyle. Investigators say company funds covered his wedding, luxury vacations, personal expenses that had nothing to do with building an app. For a while, the story held. The company kept raising, the valuation kept climbing. And then, in June 2023, the board did something founders almost never survive. They looked under the hood themselves. What they found stopped the company cold. Of IRL's claimed 20 million users, the board determined that roughly 95% were fake. Bots, incentivized downloads, anything but real people organically choosing the app. The number that justified a billion-dollar valuation was, almost entirely, an illusion. IRL shut down within days. No wind-down tour, no soft landing. The app that promised to bring people together simply vanished. In July 2024, the SEC filed charges against Shafi, accusing him of defrauding investors, including SoftBank, through false statements about growth and concealed spending. If the allegations hold up, this isn't a story about an idea that didn't work. It's a story about numbers that were never real in the first place. But here's where it gets messier. Shafi didn't go quietly. He and his co-founder turned around and sued their own investors, SoftBank, Goodwater Capital, and Floodgate, claiming those same investors spread false claims about fake users to sabotage the company and justify walking away from their investment. So now there are two competing stories. The board says the users were fake, and that's why the company died. The founders say the fake user narrative was itself exaggerated, a convenient excuse for investors who wanted out. The SEC case is still working its way through the courts, and as of now, no verdict has been reached. But whichever version turns out to be true, one fact isn't in dispute. A company built entirely on a growth story raised $170 million, and then it was gone in a matter of days. So what do we actually learn from this? Lesson 1. When a growth story is the entire pitch, verify the growth. Investors wired $170 million into a company whose core value proposition was a single unverified claim: organic virality. Nobody outside the company could independently confirm those numbers until it was far too late. If a startup's valuation rests on one metric, that metric deserves more scrutiny than any other part of the business. Lesson 2. Incentivized growth and organic growth are not the same thing, and blending them is where the lie begins. Paying people to download an app isn't illegal. Calling that organic to investors is. The fraud here wasn't the marketing strategy. It was the story told about the marketing strategy. Lesson 3. Personal spending on company funds is almost always a symptom, not the disease. A wedding and vacations charged to the business didn't sink IRL by themselves. But when founders treat investor money as personal money, it's rarely an isolated decision. It's usually a sign of a much bigger comfort with blurring lines everywhere else. Lesson 4. The board that finally checked the numbers is the same board that funded the company for years without checking. IRL didn't get caught by a whistleblower or a journalist. It got caught because its own directors finally did the diligence that should have happened before the first check was signed. Governance failures aren't just about founders. They're about everyone who had the power to ask a hard question earlier and didn't. There's a strange irony sitting underneath this entire story. IRL was built on the idea that our online lives had become fake, filtered, performative, disconnected from anything real. Its answer to that problem turned out to be a company built on fake numbers, fake growth, and possibly fake devotion to a mission its own founder didn't practice. Maybe that's the real lesson. The startups that talk the most about authenticity are exactly the ones worth checking twice. If this case study was useful to you, subscribe. Every week, we break down another company that promised the world and didn't deliver, and pull out the lessons you can actually use. Let me know in the comments which company you want us to investigate next. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.